Joining me now is Gary Thompson, CEO of Gold79. Gary, welcome to CEO Talks here on Investing News Network. As we get started, I'd like to ask you, what is your symbol and what markets are you trading on?
Hi, well, thanks for having me. Gold79 Mines, our ticker symbol is AUU, and we trade on the TSX Venture.
Okay, let's talk about Gold79 Mines. You're in the gold mining business and you have a couple of properties in Nevada. Let's start there and then talk about all the different properties that you have. What's your most active project right at the moment, and why is it the one that you want to focus on first?
Well, the one that's getting, I think, the most action right now is the Tip Top project in the Walker Lane Gold Belt in southern Nevada. For a couple of reasons, it was had a lot of good historical high grade gold intercepts, and we felt that after spending a bit of time out there, that the land position we had was too small. There was a large footprint of alteration associated with the gold mineralization, and we felt that the previous operators hadn't spent enough time trying to figure this system out. So we went ahead and staked a considerable amount of new claims to expand the holdings and on trend where we think the gold potential is trending. And so we've been busy out there soil sampling, geological mapping, and trying to still put together some of the historical data and really confirm where those holes are in the field. And so we're actually, the more work we do out there, the more excited we're about it, or getting about the project. It hasn't seen any drilling for like 30 years. You know, it's a classic work. People worked on it in the 80s and prior to, but there hasn't been a lot of work done on it for many years. And you know, typical mining cycles, booms and busts of activity, and it's been pretty dormant for a while. So we felt it's a good opportunity to get out there and really start to showcase that project. It is under the Forest Service jurisdiction, so it's a bit of a process in getting those permits. So we wanted to get ahead of that and get going so we can actually start drilling on that project in 2021.
So where exactly are you at in that permitting process, and what does your timeline look like?
Yeah, so we've been part of the field work is to identify any sensitivities. We've engaged a Reno-based consultant that does the permitting process for a living. So we're working with them to get the ball rolling. Based on our work that's been done to date and the previous work that has been done, we don't believe that it's a too long of a process. So our goal is to have this project permitted, you know, by next summer, 2021, so we can actively start drilling on the target.
So what is it about the geological data about this region that makes you feel as enthusiastic and optimistic as you are?
Well, I think the lack of systematic exploration work, and I'm always surprised that people get ahead of themselves and they start drilling and they keep drilling, and then they forget about doing the basic exploration work, which is geochemistry and geophysics. And so when we looked at the data, we said, well, where's all the soil and rock sampling? And there really wasn't any. So we felt, and just based on walking the ground and looking at the alteration, which if you look at the alteration, that's usually a pretty good indication of where the system is trending and what's happening in the system. So that was part of the reason we staked all the ground that we did, is because we got this big alteration system and only a small group of claims. So now we've done a property-wide soil sampling program to cover that, and we don't have any of those results back yet. But you know, based on what we saw in the field, we're pretty encouraged by that. And so that's just a step in that process. As we get more geochemistry, then that's going to lead into more fine tuning on the targets, and then we can incorporate that with some of the historical drilling that we have that was done on the project. And I think we'll be in good shape to drill this thing, and then ultimately get this thing into a 43-101 resource category. So we're pretty optimistic about that. While there's no 43-101 compliant resource, our internal numbers are looking pretty good. And so we're excited to get the work in, get the drilling done, and get this thing into a resource and basically see how big this thing could be.
So you're stepping up the drilling program to what size? Because you've expanded the footprint and the number of holes that you're going to drill. You just announced recently what those plans are. Maybe you could share them again.
Yeah, so well, as part of it's a function of the budget, and we're going to have to work on that as we get into next year for the actual amount of drilling. But we've got north of a 3 kilometer strike, and most of the drilling was focused in a fairly small area, like within a 500-meter area. So we've got a good multi-kilometer strike to work with to expand on.
So that's one project. You got another project not far away. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, in fact, the one that really got me going this year was, and it's another interesting one that has not seen a lot of work in 20, 30 years. It sat in private hands, and we managed to, through a couple of transactions, put together this project. It's called Jefferson Canyon, and what's interesting about Jefferson Canyon, it is located 7.5 kilometers from Kinross's Round Mountain mine that produced about 15 million ounces to date. And I think they've got another 2 or 3 million ounces in reserves. So pretty good address. And one thing that got me going on this project is you know what they say, good place to look for a mine is near a mine. So that's always good. But there was one of the holes that was drilled in the 1980s. If you look back in the 1980s, there was obviously the gold had a big run in the 80s. A lot of companies were looking for oxide gold, which is easier to process and recover the gold, basically lower cost gold production scenarios. And but there was one hole in particular that piqued my interest. 42 meters of about 6 grams of gold, and it had about 400 grams of silver. Well, if you take the gold silver ratio today and you convert that all into gold, that's like 42 meters of 11 grams gold, or about a third of an ounce. That's a spectacular drill intercept in Nevada next to a mine, road accessible. So it ticks a lot of boxes for us. And similarly to the Tip Top project, while they had done a bit of drilling and identified a gold trend, they didn't really do a systematic exploration program in that they didn't take a lot of soil samples, they didn't take a lot of rock samples, and they just got onto drilling and away they went. So we're taking a similar approach as we did on the Tip Top project. Just kind of back up a little bit. Let's cover the property in soil and rock sampling, and see what the bigger picture can tell us about this. In fact, even the work that was done last year on some limited prospecting identified some very interesting gold and silver targets that wasn't on any maps that we've seen. So, even today, you're able to go out and do some basic rudimentary exploration techniques and make new discoveries and find new gold silver mineralization at surface that wasn't previously identified, which is pretty exciting.
So where are you at on this project? We talked about Tip Top, what your plans are coming through to next year. Where are you at here?
Yeah, it's a similar process. In fact, we have crews out in the field right now as we speak. I know Tip Top got a little bit ahead of the curve as far as timeline goes, only because we had some sensitivities on staking the new claim, so we decided to push on there first. But we do have field crews operating right now, and in fact, with all the fires that has been going on in California, we actually got chased out of the Tip Top area for a few days because it was so smoky. And so we have crews right now doing soil sample and prospecting and some mapping on Jefferson Canyon as we speak. And the same group that's doing the permitting for Tip Top is also looking at the permitting for the Jefferson Canyon project. So they're kind of working in tandem, although we could argue one's a little bit ahead of the other. Effectively, we're moving them along at the same pace, and it's similar permitting process. That'll get us through the winter, and then hopefully be ready to drill on that target sometime next summer, 2021.
You mentioned the fires and the smoke and how that interrupted operations for a couple of days. What about COVID-19? How has that impacted you this year?
Well, it's certainly been a challenge. I think a lot of operators will attest to that. It's pretty encouraging, though, to me to see that the industry, the mining industry, is recognized, as an essential service. Really is a strategic element to the economy, and I'm proud to be part of that, and I'm proud that we're able to say that we are an essential service. And so we've been able to get things done. It certainly has slowed up I would say, the results from the assay labs. I think have been impacted, given probably social distancing, and plus we've had a pretty significant rise in activity in the gold and silver prices this year. So we've seen a lot more activity, a lot more companies out there doing exploration, and perhaps the labs are bombarded with more samples than anticipated, and then in turn having to deal with the social distancing and the COVID challenges. So it has posed some challenges from crossing the border. We've had some delays on samples getting across the border, even though we're working in the U.S. Ultimately, the samples go to our lab in Vancouver, the lab that we use. So there's been some delays and some challenges getting across the border here and there, but generally, I think it's been good for us in a sense that, again, we are seen as an essential service. So it's been busy for us. We've
Yeah.
had to make some hires and really push on things to get things done.
Well, that's good news. Now, there are going to be people who are watching this going, Gold 79 Mines, never heard of you. Where'd you come from? How long you been in business? What's your team? What's the makeup of your team? And what are some of your past successes?
Yeah, well, a Gold 79 Mines is a rebrand, a new company, effectively. It resulted in a merger of a company called Territory Metals, which I founded, which was a private company, which is where the Tip Top project came from, was in Territory Metals. And then we merged up with a company called Aura Resources, which was formerly called Aura Silver, and they had the Jefferson Canyon project. They had a project in Arizona called Gold Chain, and they had a minority interest in a project in Mexico that's actually under operation by Minorum, and they have a joint venture with Agnico Eagle in Nunavut. So we came together, started talking at the end of last year, and originally it was an idea of maybe there was a project deal to be had, and then as we started having further discussions, we thought, well, we're all trying to build something here. We're trying to build a gold company. So rather than us doing it independently, let's come together and see if we can make this happen quicker and more effectively. So my background, I'm a geologist by training. I guess I'm pushing about 30 years experience in the resource sector. I've been running public companies now since about 2016. A lot of the Aurora guys were part of the UR Energy group. Some senior guys. We've got a lot of experience in our company. I think somebody added it up. All of our, I guess maybe I don't have quite the gray hairs of some of the guys, but 187 years worth of experience if you combine all of our talents. But lots of good skills. We just added Derek McPherson, which engineer, metallurgist, markets guy. We do have, I say we're fairly weighted on the geologist talent in the company. John McNeese, as a CFO, very well experienced in mining. And so I think collectively we bring together a good mix of talents and a good solid team, very technically strong. Our VPX, Rob Johansson, like 40 plus years experience. He spent a couple decades with Kinross. So lots of experience in gold exploration and exploration in general, and running and building companies. And really that's our goal, is to focus on gold in the Southwest U.S. And, of course, Nevada, everybody knows, is a good place to be. We're looking at other jurisdictions. Idaho is also ranking up there quite well these days. We do have this project, Gold Chain in Arizona. In fact, it's an oxide gold target that we didn't really talk about, but that's one that is BLM land that we can actually probably drill on before the end of this year. And it's not too far from, there's a mine called the Moss Mine in Arizona that's operated by Northern Vertex. So similar geology than to that mine. So really just looking to build a solid a gold company and ultimately looking to get something into production and get to some cash flow and or sell these things. Ultimately trying to make a win for our shareholders, and I think that's what it's all about.
Well, okay, you touched on or led right into my next question, which is, okay, I'm watching this, potential investor. What's the offering right now? What do you say this is the opportunity that we have in front of us, and why you should look at us as a place to invest your money?
Yeah, well, I think the opportunity is that the company has just gone through this transaction and transition into to a new company, and we've yet to get any value bump on that. I mean, we're just kind of getting going, rebranding this company. The company's trading at 10 cents, about 80 plus million shares out, so 8 million market cap. In my view, this company is dirt cheap at these levels, and we haven't even really started drilling yet. So I think once the market really starts to understand what we have, and we haven't been able to, I think, showcase these assets in the best light yet because we're still working through some of the data. But I think as we start to unlock the potential and prove to the market there's actually some meaningful gold resources here, then I think we'll start to see some share appreciation. So I think the opportunity is get in early while you still can at a really low share price, and give us some time to get some drilling done and really unlock the potential of these assets. And that's just going to take time and effort to do that. But so now's the time to get in early. That's where
Right.
you want to be.
Well, and the price of gold appears to be remaining relatively stable right now, so that's a good sign as well.
Well, I think so. Obviously, the last week was pretty challenging for the sector. I think a big club came out and beat everybody down
Hmm.
last week, and now it's a grind back up. But I think all the fundamentals that drove gold to over 2,000 are still there. In fact, I think we'll see a push much higher in gold in our view, and silver. It's coming, and it's just going to take a bit of time, and so we're pretty excited. With the assets we have, and where the sector is going in general.
Hmm.
We're going to get out and drill some holes, and end of 2020 and into 2021 is going to be an exciting year for Gold 79.
Yeah, I think we'll look at that little setback as really being just a blip, the way that things seem to be shaping up as far as price of gold is concerned.
Yeah, I think so too. It's if it depends who you listen to. I've seen as high as $20,000 a gold per ounce. But I think if you build a good company in a solid jurisdiction, and that's really the objective here is to identify good assets, move them up the curve, and ultimately get them into production at a low cost and with a high margin. And shareholders should do very well with that.
Yeah, well, we'll be watching, and hopefully you'll come back and give us an update in a few months and keep us fully engaged in what hopes to be or appears to be promising a future for the mine site and for the company.
Certainly would be happy to do that. I look forward to it.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining me.
You're very welcome. Thank you.